Hi, my name is Gregor. Thanks for checking out this BassTheWorld.com video, and today I have the pleasure to talk to you about the brand new Glockenklang Steamhammer 700 watts Class D amp. There it is. I've been a Glockenklang user for, I don't know, maybe like 10-15 years now, and I just love their amps. They are very well known here in Germany, especially for producing very I would say very clean and very neutral amps, and the kind of top of the line amp that I'm broadly using from Glockenklang, the Bassart Classic, along with the Bassart Classic cabinet, are just amazing. You connect your bass, you play a note, and you thought, okay, that's what my bass actually sounds like. You get right away this kind of studio hi-fi sound that you it's just lovely, because there's a lot of amps, like especially like when you take the opposite, like a Fender or an Ampeg all tube amp, and these are coloring your tone a lot, and they give you a lot of compression and saturation and everything, which can be really nice for different circumstances. But I personally feel much more comfortable with fast amps that don't add any color or anything to your bass, and that you can use like a chameleon and just make them anything you want. So if I need some sort of like a warm tube sound, then I have a couple of preamps that I can use in combination with such an amp to make it sound like a tube amp, which works really well. If I just want to have the clean, nice hi-fi sound with the full dynamic spectrum and everything, then I just use the amp as it is, and it just sounds amazing, at least to my ears. So since I'm a huge Glockenklang fan, this review might be a little bit biased, so sorry for that, but I hope it's interesting to you to find out what Glockenklang is, and especially what the new Steamhammer amp is. And the idea behind this Class D top is kind of different to all the other and previous released Glockenklang amps, because, as I said, Glockenklang is known for making very clean and super neutral amps that don't add any frequencies, color, or anything to your amp, and they're just fast and give you exactly what you put in. The Steamhammer, however, is the first Glockenklang Class D amp that is built with an ICE power module. This is the power amp module that built into this, and these are sounding very different and don't really follow the typical Glockenklang concept, which could be interesting. So this could potentially be a Glockenklang amp for those who didn't like Glockenklang so far. So, and even for Glockenklang amps who don't want users who don't want to have like a super clean amp and would like to have something a little bit more warm and organic sounding, this could be it. The problem with these super clean and fast amps is that they reveal everything. So you play something wrong, or you just don't have your best day, and you make some mistakes on a gig or in a rehearsal or wherever. Glockenklang amps are very likely to reveal this problem to anyone in the room, and this can be a problem. So you have to play very clean and super in time and everything, because it will just reveal every little mistake that you make. This, however, is designed to be a little bit more forgiving on this side. So it's much more plug and play, and where you don't have to worry about every little tiny detail. So just plug it in, switch it on, and just play and feel nice and with a beautiful and warm bass sound. So that's basically the concept of the Steamhammer amp. So, and now let's have a look at the specifications and of course the controls. First of all, it's a 700 watt amp, and you can get the 700 watts at 4 ohms or also at 2.7 ohms. And this might sound a little bit weird to some of you, but it's actually kind of an old Glockenklang thing. With 2.7 ohms, you can use, or you can combine a 4 ohm with an 8 ohm cabinet, and this is something that might not happen every day or to everyone, because this is kind of a weird combination. But if you appear to have two, like a 4 ohm and an 8 ohm cabinet, you can finally use them together with this amp. But it also means you can use one 4 ohm, one 8 ohm, two 8 ohm, or even three 8 ohm cabinets. at the same time, and that's really cool. So there's a switch on the back that allows you to choose between 4 and 2.7 ohms. We have, as I said, 700 watts when you have like a 4 ohm or 2 8 ohm cabinets attached with in the 4 ohm mode. If you use one 8 ohm, then it's still 380 watts. So this is kind of the standard situation. I guess most people will just use one 8 ohm cabinet like I do. And but 300 watts from Glockenklang is still a lot. So this is not a company cheating with a power amp output data like some other companies do. So if they say it's still 380 watt, then it really is. And then you will find out that this will be still enough for the most situations. So let's go to the control panel. Of course, first of all, we have the input for your bass. This is, I think, the first amp where they don't have 2 channels, but I think this is completely fine. So they kept it a little bit easier here. It's more like a plug and play amp, so that's fine for me. We have, of course, the gain. Then we have a 20 dB pad switch. So if you're using a bass with a very high and hot output, you might want to use it to make sure that you don't get any overdrive in the preamp section. And then we have another switch, which is the mute, which is, they call it tune, but it's basically just a mute switch. And then we have an overdrive section. And if someone came 10 years ago to me and told me that in 10 years there will be overdrives built into Glockenklang amps, I would not have believed it. But there are a lot of stuff happened that I wouldn't have believed with Glockenklang. So this is something cool and new to me, so but I like it. It sounds actually really good. It's not really an overdrive that you want to use for to create some heavy rock sounds. It's much more an overdrive to just add some grit to your bass and just to make everything not so clean anymore, but a little bit more dirty. And this, I think, for this is actually working really well. We have a gain that allows you to decide over the amount of overdrive you want to add. Then we have a volume to even out the volume. So if you add a lot of gain, you might also increase the volume of the tone, of course. And the volume here allows you to adjust it back to your regular level of the clean sound. And then the third one is a voice filter, and this is actually something really cool. When you add overdrive with clean sounding amps, it sometimes sounds a bit harsh in the treble especially, and it just might hurt your ears at some point. It's just not too nice sounding, and this is a filter that kind of decreases and the treble and the bass section a little bit to make this a little bit more pleasant sounding, and it also kind of cleans up the mids a little bit, because sometimes you get kind of a mid bubbles that kind of overdrive too much, and with this filter you can just even everything a little bit out. And this is really cool, because when you dial it in, it kind of sounds like a 70s tube amp at some points, and this is a cool thing. And the overdrive can be engaged and the voice is engaged separately, so you don't have to use that in combination with the overdrive, and this is something really cool. Then we have in 4-band EQ, we have bass, low mids, and treble. And the bass is boosting and decreasing 50 dB. And the interesting thing is, when you boost it, you boost at 60 Hertz, and when you cut it, it's cutting at 20 Hertz. And this is actually a cool idea, because if you have any problems in the room with too much bass, there's just a weird bass build up, like actually in this room right now still, but not much longer. Then cutting at 20 Hertz makes absolutely sense, because these are like the super low frequencies that you won't hear much, but sometimes make a lot with the room. So this is actually a cool thing. And boosting at 60 Hertz is kind of the basis that you want to boost if you want to have like a warmer and heavier bass sound. The mids and the low mids and the high mids do both have a switch, so you can choose between 2 different frequencies. They both boost and cut at 12 dB. And let me check this briefly. For low mids, we have either 150 Hertz or 240, and for the regular mids, you have either 770 Hertz or 1.5 kilohertz to choose. The treble is sitting at 8 kilohertz and can be boosted or cut by 15 dB. And one feature that I really like and always have loved about Glockenklang amps is that you can actually engage or disengage the equalizer. From my experience with Glockenklang amps, you often don't need an equalizer because they sound very natural and nice and good right away. So when you plug, when your bass sounds well, of course. When you have a shitty bass, then this will also not sound that good. But that's if you buy these kind of amps, you have a good bass already. I'm sure about that. However, I often, especially in live situations, didn't use the EQ because it just sounded good, and so this allowed me to. It allows you, in this case, to use the EQ as some sort of a second channel, especially if you're having just one song in your set where you play like slap bass stuff and you just want to get rid of some mids for this kind of sound, for example, and want to increase some treble, then just use it for this one sound, and that's really cool. It's like a second channel for you. Then we have an effects way, and here you can control if you the amount of effect. So there's a loop on the back. I will show you later. And if you have, for example, a distortion pedal or delay or whatever, a chorus pedal, and you don't want to have like the entire bass sound colored with this effect, and you can use this control to maybe decide over 50%. I want 50% of my bass to sound clean and straight, and the other one I want to have with the effect sound. And it's really cool to be able to adjust the amount of effect used in your signal chain. And this can of course also be engaged or disengaged. So you don't have to, but you can also do this with a foot switch on the back. Here we have, of course, the master volume that gives you, of course, volume. So let's have a look at the back. So here we have the rear panel. We have, of course, an input for a power cable. We have the power switch. We have two different speaker outs, which is really nice because the most Class D amps are so tiny that there's not even space for two outputs. And I think Glockenklang has kind of a different approach. They don't really do compromises when they're building amps. That's why their amps are also not as affordable as many of the competitor products. But I guess most Glockenklang users don't really care because this is what you buy when you want to have quality and don't want to have any compromises. So I appreciate that, to have an amp that is a little bit bigger but has all the features and possibilities I'm looking for in a bass amp. So cool thing. We have a headphone out if you want to rehearse or practice late at night at home with this amp. Then we have here the switch I talked about that allows you to switch between 4 ohms and 2.7 ohms for the speaker outs. And then we have a couple of foot switch connectors. There don't come any foot switches with this amp, but you can use any standard foot switch, and you can use it for the drive section, you can use it for the loop, and you can, of course, use it for the mute switch. So this is something I'm using on my amp. I have always a foot switch for the mute because it's just much more comfortable to use it that way. Then we have a tuner out. It's just a regular line out that allows you to connect, for example, if you're using like a rack and you have a 19-inch tuner and want to connect it internally, then you can use it for that. And then we have the effects loop. So we have a send and a return. And as I told you, this allows you to use effects in the effects way. That means between the preamp and the power amp. I think the most basses don't really need this because I think every pedal sounds great in the front of a bass amp. It's this different with guitar tube amps, but for bass I think it doesn't make a huge difference. But as I said, it's really cool because you can decide over the amount of effects you're using. This might be a reason to actually use the effects way. I don't do it, especially except for some cases, but the possibility is given, and that's of course great. And a new feature which is really nice, you can decide with the loop return if this is like the mono return of your bass, the normal bass signal or effect signal, or you can also switch it to be an aux in for an MP3 player or a CD player or your mobile phone or wherever you want to play music nowadays. And this is really cool if you want just to play along with some music or a drum groove that's on your iPad or whatever. So you connect this here and get the sound through the speaker as well, and it's really cool. Then we have 3 more switches. They are all for the XLR DI out. So the first one is the ground lift. That's important if you ever have any humming issues on a gig. Then you might want to use this. Then we have a pre and post DI. This decides if you want to grab the bass signal right at the input, so there's no preamp and no effects, no nothing on the DI out, just your pure bass signal. Or if you go to the post setting, then everything that happens in the amp will also be on the XLR out. And the third one is again a pad, so you can decrease the output of the XLR volume by 20 dB if you want to do that. This amp weighs just 3.4 kilos, which is of course very nice, because my Glockenklang amp weighs like 30 kilos, and this is something I would never bring this on a gig or anything. This is a studio amp and it's really nice here, but I really don't want to move it around. But for modern day bassists, we are so used now to having lightweight amps that just Glockenklang had to go follow this path at some point as well. And I think this is the 4th Class D amp they now made, and it's getting interesting because they have like a different types of amps that you can now get. So some are more oriented with the old Buzzard amps, for example, or the Hard Rock, which is more like the rock amp. And now we have the Steamhammer, which is also more on the rock side, but smaller and more affordable and a little bit more lightweight than the previous model. And that's something really cool. My impression of this amp is I'm a little bit weirded out, but don't get me wrong, because like I said, I'm a Glockenklang user, and for me this is not really what I expect from a Glockenklang amp. But I'm not always playing this one amp. I have other amps as well if I just want to have different voicings, different sounds, and I need to get like a sticker over the Glockenklang, and then I can work with it very well, because it's just an amazing amp. It does exactly what they say. You get all the fine detailed sounds of the Class A preamp. You have this amazing Glockenklang EQ that allows you to adjust your bass sound with an EQ that just works well and does exactly what you wish to do. They have like a secret wizard power in their hands to just find the right frequencies and the right cues to make this not except for me, just for me, it's definitely working great. And so you get all these amazing Glockenklang features which they are known for, but with an amp that is just forgiving. So it's not super revealing, it's not super honest. It's more like these amps that are played nowadays, if you're honest. So if you look on the stages, there's a lot of Mark Bass and Kruger and all these modern day amps, and they don't give a shit, about what an amp is supposed to sound. There's no supposed to sound, but they just add a lot of color, and they don't care what your bass originally sounds like. And a lot of people like that, and I can appreciate it, because it's just easy when you like with an Mark Bass amp. This is so much coloring. You plug in your bass, and there's a lot of bass and a lot of deep mids going on. This sounds of course amazing, and it's a lot of fun to play this, and so I get why people are using it. However, I like it clean, and I like it kind of flat to make my own decisions, and this is it's like a compromise between the super classical, super analytic Glockenklang and the stuff people are playing nowadays. So this is the amp you might want to use if you just want to have an amp that has like the foot in both worlds. One side is typical Glockenklang, amazing features, amazing quality, all the best parts, and on the other hand, this not so super revealing but just nice and warm amp sound. And if you think these are both things that belong together and you would wish them to have in one case, then this could be your amp. And so they're coming out very soon, or they're coming out right now, but they will be delivered like in the quantities I get in January in 2017. And next year they will also come with rack mounts, with bags and everything you might want to use along with it. And so that's it. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions regarding this amp, just let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, just contact Glockenklang. If you have any crazy detailed questions, just contact them directly, because I'm not a technician. I just know how to listen to amps. So I will spend a lot more time with this amp to get used to it, because it's so different from my Glockenklang, but I still like what it's doing. So I'm off in the shed. Have a beautiful day. See you next time, and bye bye, I guess.